Hi, I'm Shoestring Jane. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things thrifty, frugal and money saving. And today I thought I would talk about how to stay healthy on a tight budget. I'm really talking from my own experience. I'm no kind of expert. I am a yoga teacher, but it doesn't make me an expert on everything. It gives me some knowledge of exercise. I am interested in nutrition, but I don't have any qualifications. And I do have some health issues. So, you know, I'm not a perfect example. I'm not trying to present myself as somebody who knows everything. But there are certain things I think that you can do. People tend to think that if you live on a tight budget, that you will be less healthy. And there is some evidence that, I mean, certainly poverty creates health problems, or sometimes the health problems create poverty. It can be a double-sided sword. So I'm not really aiming it at those of you who are living in poverty. I'm kind of assuming that you do have some income and can make some choices. And some people are in such dire circumstances that really, you know, thinking about trying to live a more healthy lifestyle can be quite tricky, really. So I would say, if that's you, then make sure that you're claiming all of the benefits that you are entitled to. Have a look at Turn to Us, or Entitled to, actually is another website, to make sure that you're getting all the money that you can do and all the help that you can get. So I'm just talking from my own experience, as I say, about how I try to live a healthy lifestyle on a tight budget. So the first and most obvious thing that you can do to try and stay healthy is to take some exercise. So I'm not talking about taking out an expensive gym membership or going to lots of classes that cost £10 a time, or taking out even a membership online. Some of those are quite expensive as well, or joining a club, or, you know, there are things that you can do that are fun to do, but if you're on a very tight budget, probably not an option for you. So I'm actually at the point in my life where I think I could potentially use and make good use of a gym membership, and it's not in my budget right now, so I'm not going to do it. I have more time than ever, and I think actually I would get a lot of benefit from going to a gym and doing regular swimming and that kind of thing, but it's not going to happen this year, maybe next year, so it's not something I could afford to do. But I do try to exercise regularly. So the obvious thing that I do a lot of walking, because I have a dog. He insists that we go out for at least 2 walks a day. And sometimes I really do not want to go. I don't want to go, particularly when the weather's not good or it's really cold. But he makes me go, and I am grateful for that. So I feel better for getting outside, getting some fresh air, doing some exercise. It's fairly gentle, it's low impact. It doesn't impact on me, on my fibromyalgia, which I suffer from, except in a positive way. It's really good for me to do some exercise. So anyone can exercise for free. It can be quite difficult to make yourself do it, as I say, and before I had the dog, I walked less, although I did still walk. I didn't walk every single day. So the other thing that I do is practice yoga every day, most days anyway, say 5 days out of 7. There are some mornings when I'm too busy to do yoga practice, and it has to be in the morning for me, otherwise it doesn't get done. So I do yoga. I would recommend yoga for anybody. Again, it's low impact, it's good for me because it doesn't exhaust me. As I say, I have fibromyalgia, which, in case you don't know, is one of those things that doctors don't really know what it is, what causes it, but it makes you feel exhausted. It makes all your joints ache. It can impact, it tends to be associated with things like insomnia and IBS and that kind of thing. So for me, these are really ideal types of exercise. But you can do other exercise too. So, you know, dust off your old bike. How many of us have got bikes sitting in the shed that we don't use? And start to use it, and you can save on fuel too. And a lot of councils in the parks, I've noticed, we've got a couple here, have those outdoor gyms, which you don't have to pay to use. You can just go and use them. And I see people regularly, when I've been walking the dog again, I've seen people exercising on those for nothing. So we've got a couple here. And the more you use them, the more the council are obliged to maintain them. So it's good to do that. If you don't fancy exercising outdoors, outdoors, if you've got space for them, you can get some exercise equipment at home. And I did get, years ago, I had a cross trainer that I picked up, I think it was about £40 on Facebook Marketplace, and I did use that for a bit, but then we don't have space for it now. We don't have a garage. If you've got space for things like that, you can pick it up quite inexpensively, particularly at this time of year, because people in a rush of enthusiasm with their New Year's resolutions will buy equipment in January, and by sort of March, April time, they're fed up with them and they're in the way, and you'll find that they sell them and you can get a good deal second hand. So sometimes you can get them for free as well. I mean, I actually gave away that cross trainer in the end on FreeCycle because it was taking up space. I didn't want to take it down the tip. I wanted someone to use it. It wasn't in the best condition. I wasn't bothered about getting any money for it, so I gave it away. And then somebody hopefully has got some further use out of it. So that's always a possibility as well. You can put a request in on FreeCycle or Frugal as well, to ask if anybody's got any free exercise equipment, because people have it sitting around in sheds and garages, and they might be prompted to get them out and offer it to you for nothing. The other thing that my daughter's been doing and really enjoying is the Couch to 5K program, and you can get an app for that, and it will get you running in, I think it's 10 weeks. I think it's a 10-week program, and it's a really good program. I did listen to a bit of it myself, and it has some celebrities kind of talking you through your very early runs and building up over time to run hopefully 5K or jog 5K. So that costs nothing. So there are other things as well, like on YouTube there are exercise programs. Yoga with Adrienne is a good one. I've found that it's really, really she's a very good yoga teacher, and she's very gentle, and you can tell she's kind of considering the fact that most of her students are online. They may not have done any yoga before, and she's quite sort of safe. It feels safe. So that's the other thing that's worth looking at, I think. You can exercise for free to stay healthy. Another thing I've found that's really important for my health is to get enough sunlight. So when I worked in an office, I did a real 9-to-5 type job. I would arrive in the morning in the winter and it would be dark when I walked in. I would leave in the evening and it would be dark, and it would be so depressing. And I think I did actually suffer from SAD, seasonal affective disorder, in those days. I used to get very, very low in the winter, particularly after Christmas. And I think a lot of other people do. I've spoken to a lot of people that feel the same. So it's really important for you to get sunlight. I think it's serotonin, isn't it, that it gives you, the hormone that boosts your mood, and it needs sunlight to be generated. So it's very important. I did used to try to counter the fact that I was indoors all day during the winter by taking a walk during my lunch break, and that actually kept me sane. And the other thing I did as well was park a little bit away from the office and walk in, but that didn't necessarily give me daylight, and then I would walk back, but it would give me exercise and fresh air. So I think that's really important. Walking the dog, of course, gives me every opportunity to get sunlight these days. And the other thing is that it generates vitamin D, and they reckon an awful lot of us are vitamin D deficient now. I actually take a supplement these days because it's something that is supposed to be good for fibromyalgia. I can get quite an inexpensive supplement, but in actual fact, I probably generate enough of my own vitamin D these days. When you consider that, we're indoors a lot, particularly women, we probably put makeup on, we put sun protection factor, whatever, 15 just in our foundation. So you need to kind of expose some skin to get some light at some point. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Or just think about how you can expose yourself to a bit of sunlight, particularly in the winter. And I think that really, really helps your health. I find it really helps mine. So again, this is my own personal experience. Another really obvious and important factor in staying well and healthy is diet. Lots said about diet and how you should eat, and there's lots of experts that will tell you this and that, and then some other experts that will tell you that that's wrong. So some people recommend that you eat a low-fat diet. Others say you should forgo meat and go vegan, go plant-based. Other people say actually sugar is the biggest killer and you should cut out all sugar, or all carbs and go high fat, low carb. So there's so many differing opinions on what constitutes a healthy diet, but there are certain strands that come through all the arguments, and that is that eating lots of fresh fruit, well, not necessarily fresh, fruit and vegetables in any form, could be frozen or canned, as well as fresh, not having too much sugar, not having too much alcohol, and avoiding processed food. These things all come up really when anybody's telling you about good nutrition. So those are the things that we can do. Personally, I loved the idea of eating plant-based. I did try it. I've got a couple of videos where I did hauls from Aldi on to help me eat a plant-based diet, but in reality it just doesn't suit me at all. I suffer from IBS. I think it's connected with fibromyalgia, and it made it flare up horribly, so it doesn't suit my body. And I do think there is an element of, there's not a one size fits all kind of prescription when it comes to diet. Sometimes you have to listen to your body and what suits you, and I am currently exploring a low carb diet. I've done it before and it definitely helped with my fibromyalgia. It helped with the pains, and it helped with the brain fog as well. That's another thing that you get with fibromyalgia. So I am exploring high fat, low carb, but it's hard to do it on a budget. And that's the thing that put me off for ages. I was kind of thinking about it, thinking I'm sure this will help me, but actually you can't have the cheap fillers like pasta and rice and bread when you're eating, and potatoes when you're eating low carb. And it's tricky to find things that you can eat instead. But the approach I think I'm going to be taking is by making sure that I cook a lot myself, and that, again, I always plan my meals. So planning every meal, including lunches and breakfasts, I think that will be important. So I'm only buying what I need to buy, doing lots of meals based around eggs and high-fat yogurt and that kind of thing, rather than pure meat. But I'm exploring that, so you never know, I might do a video on that if it turns out interesting and I manage to do it on a budget. So, but the thing is to avoid, convenience and processed foods. I think they do stuff to food that is not good for us. They stuff it with sugar and salt, they take out the fat, but they don't necessarily leave in the good fats that you can get from things like olive oil and fish and coconut oil and that kind of thing. They take out the fat. It doesn't then taste very nice because they've taken out the fat. They ram in sugar and salt, and it sits around. It's very processed, and I don't trust that kind of processed food. And I think people say you can't eat well on a budget, and I disagree with that. So again, I would go back to, it's different if you're absolutely on the poverty line, then you just will eat whatever you can get hold of, I'm quite sure, just to stay alive. But if you've got an income, even if it's a small income, there's no reason why you can't eat healthily on a budget. So if you come over to my Secondhand and Frugal Life, my Facebook group, there's an awful lot of really good advice from the clever members on there about how you can eat well on a budget. And I think you can. You can buy your fruit and vegetables in frozen form, as I said. You can get them from a market. You don't have to. You can go to the Aldi and Lidl, 5 of the week, the best bargains of the week that they have. There are ways to do it if you look into it, do a bit of research, learn a bit about nutrition, and be prepared to cook from scratch. Don't just eat rubbish. So the next thing on my list of things that I try to do to stay well and healthy, and it's free, is sleep. Now I should say at this point that I am not good at sleep. I am a long-term insomniac. I've struggled with sleep for years and years and years, and I'm not sure if it is something that's associated with fibromyalgia. I'm not sure which comes first, whether being an insomniac gives you fibromyalgia or contributes to it anyway, or the fibromyalgia somehow stops you sleeping well, interrupts your sleeping patterns. I'm not sure which comes first, but it does seem to be a regular thing. So again, I'm definitely not an expert on sleeping well. I feel very jealous of people that can just put their head on the pillow and go to sleep and fall into a deep, deep sleep. But there are things that I do that definitely help with my sleep. And the first of these is when I feel myself getting sleepy on the sofa, is to get up and go to bed. Because once I've fallen asleep on the sofa, then I get up and go to bed and I wake up and I can't get back to sleep. So that's a thing that I really try to do now. And lots is said about sleep hygiene, isn't it? And turning off all your screens half an hour or so before you go to bed. I'm not very good at that. And the reason I'm not very good at that is because I quite often listen to a podcast to help me off to sleep, or I listen to an audiobook, or I listen to some gentle music, and I use my phone for that. So I try not to look at the screen though, and I close the cover of my phone so that I don't get that blue light. So that is something that I do find helpful. I find a bit of sound helpful. So whether you would do that, I don't know. But I think other people do, because there are apps like Calm now, and you can get a free version of Calm or a paid version, where they have a whole host of sleep stories. And I used to listen to these very often. I do occasionally still. Stephen Fry does a fabulous one where he's in Provence, Blue Gold I think it's called, and his voice is really soporific, and you go off to sleep. So things like that can be really helpful. I think Headspace is the other big one, isn't it, that has sleep stories and meditations on it. So that's really worth looking at. But that does mean, of course, you have to have your phone. But other than that, I try to get away from screens. I try not to sit on my computer right up till I'm going to bed, for example. We do tend to watch the TV quite a lot in the evening, though, and that is another screen. So that's something you could think about if your sleep is bad, is just getting rid of all of them. And I do then tend to go to bed and read, and I do enjoy reading, and reading before I go to bed really settles my mind. It relaxes me. I'll maybe have a cup of chamomile tea, or I'll have an Ovaltine or some sort of milky drink, and that really does help. Kind of creates a break, I think, between the day and the busyness of the day and that time when you have to go to sleep. So I find that really, really helpful. So I'm not brilliant at sleep from a personal perspective, but I do appreciate that it's really, really important for your health. There is a reason they use sleep deprivation as a form of torture, isn't there, for example? So I do prioritise that, and I do try to do all of the things that I need to do in order to get myself a decent night's sleep. Another really important thing on my list to keep healthy that doesn't really cost you anything at all, or needn't cost you anything at all, is to reduce your stress levels. And it's so easy to say that. It's quite difficult to do it, isn't it, in practice? It depends on your life. You know, you may just have a lot of stresses in your life that are difficult to avoid. So then at that point, all you can do is try to handle the stress. You'd think that being a yoga teacher, I'd be really, really good at stress. But for years, I think I wasn't really. It was kind of low-level stress, which meant I didn't really realise that it was there a lot of the time. And I think that kind of long-term low-level stress really had an impact on my health, a negative impact on my health. And my theory is that is what causes fibromyalgia. It's to do with stress. And I think in my case, it was to do with that long-term low-level stress, as I say, because I was in a job that I really didn't enjoy, with working for people who just totally didn't appreciate any of their staff. We got paid really badly, did a really stressful job, a really tiring job. So, you know, it was badly paid, as I say. So as well as, you know, having all the stresses of having people shouting at you all day, you then worried about money when you got home. And it was a thankless job, really. And one thing I would say, because I was a manager in a call centre, is when you ring people in call centres, please be nice to them. Please be nice to them. It is the worst job you can ever do. And all these companies have got big call centres, and the staff are just treated not well, and they don't get paid well, and you know, they have to be polite to people who are cross all day. So be nice to them, even if you don't agree with what they're saying. You know, be polite. I think that did definitely contributed to a sense of being, you know, unwell generally. Things I do to keep on top of stress now is doing yoga, obviously. That's a really good thing. I would recommend it to anybody. A little bit of meditation. So again, Calm do some really nice, free, like 10-minute meditation. So if you've never done it before, just sitting and doing one of those every day it'll have a real good impact on you. I mean, they've done lots of studies in America particularly about how regular meditation can lower stress levels, can lower your blood pressure. So we've got people with blood pressure going through the roof that are having to take medication for it, and they put them on a meditation program, and their blood pressure came down. So there's a lot to be said for doing a bit of meditation. So I think doing all of the things I've mentioned already, getting some exercise, eating well, sleeping as well as you possibly can, although one thing definitely impacts on the other with stress, and, you know, just addressing the stress when you feel like you've got stress, just recognizing it and doing something kind of active rather than just slumping in front of the TV at the end of the day. Although TV can be great, takes you out of yourself. Maybe going for a bike ride, or doing a bit of yoga, or doing something else, going out, even just speaking to friends and that kind of thing, can really help. So getting on top of the stress and recognizing your stressors. And one other important thing that helps me keep on top of my stress levels is to budget carefully and keep in control of my money. I mean, I know, it's easy to say just keep control of your stress, but if you are worried about money, that is just impossible. I know in the past I've had real money worries, and it's just made me so stressed out. And I find that by keeping a budget, knowing what's coming in and what's going out, knowing what my expenses are, knowing whether I've got money to spend on A, B and C, whatever it is that I want to spend on, know whether I can afford it, has really had a dramatically positive impact on my mental health and my well-being and my stress levels. So it's really worth taking control of things like that. And there's a lot more I could say about wellness and staying well on a budget, but the last one that I will mention here is to give yourself time to do some fun stuff. It's really, really important to give yourself a bit of time out. And you might think, I can't do that because I can't afford to go out with friends, or I can't afford to go to the pub, or I can't afford a day out at Alton Towers with the kids, or whatever it is, But there are lots of free things you can do. You don't have to pay lots of money. Just getting out to the park with the kids and getting a trip to the coast. We do that a lot. We're fortunate we live quite close to the coast here. We're only half an hour or so away. And just getting that sea air and having a walk along the beach in any weathers is just really great. And we quite often take a flask of coffee. We sometimes take a picnic if the weather's nice. And it just kind of cuts you off from real life. Just do something different. It doesn't matter what it is. Walking in the woods is the other thing that I absolutely love. Walking in nature is so nice. It's what I like, but it depends what you like, doesn't it? If you can find something that you enjoy, look out for free events. Hopefully the free festivals that we used to have around here will be starting again now that COVID doesn't seem to be such a major problem. And going to things like that are nice. There's free events you can go to. There's talks and things that are run by the libraries and universities that you can go to. There are clubs that either are free or don't cost very much. You can get these stitch and bitch type craft sessions. The Ramblers Association, I mean, the walks are free. I think you have to pay to join Ramblers. I don't think it's very expensive. But just getting out and chatting to people and doing something different. Even if you were just volunteering, it's a break from your everyday life. You could volunteer and do something different, meet different people, have different experiences, get some useful experience for yourself, something to put on your CV. Use your library. I get a lot of ebooks. I get a lot of audiobooks via BorrowBox, which is through my library card. I borrow books from the library and go into the library and have a little browse. You can read the magazines, and there's all sorts. You can hire a film. There's all sorts you can do for free using your library. So when you start looking at what you can do for nothing, there are lots of options. It just, you need to be aware of them. And even like cheap things, like just taking the kids around a boot sale, give them £5 each and say, you can buy yourself a new toy or two. It's just a break from the everyday humdrum, isn't it? So make time to do some fun things. I think that's really, really important for your physical health, and it doesn't need to cost you lots of money. Those are just a few ideas off the top of my head anyway, about how you can stay well and healthy on a budget. What do you do? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and you like this sort of content, do give me the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.